Imagine this: you wake up in the greatest city on earth, Rome. The streets are filled with merchants, soldiers, and philosophers. The empire stretches across 3 continents, ruling over millions. But in just a few centuries, this unstoppable superpower will crumble into dust. How did one of history's greatest civilizations fall? Was it the invading barbarians? Corrupt emperors? A collapsing economy? The truth is far more shocking than you think. Stay with me as we unravel the dramatic downfall of the Roman Empire. For over 1,000 years, Rome was one of the most powerful civilizations in history. It conquered vast territories, developed sophisticated government systems, and influenced art, philosophy, and law in ways that still shape our world today. But despite its strength, Rome was not invincible. By the 5th century AD, the Western Roman Empire had crumbled, bringing an end to one of the greatest empires the world had ever seen. But what caused this downfall? Was it barbarian invasions? Economic collapse? Political corruption? The truth is, the fall of Rome was not caused by a single event but by a combination of internal weaknesses and external pressures that slowly tore the empire apart. One of the biggest reasons for Rome's fall was the constant political instability that plagued the empire, especially in its later years. During the 3rd and 4th centuries AD, Rome suffered from frequent power struggles. Emperors were often overthrown, assassinated, or replaced by military generals who seized power for themselves. In fact, between 235 and 285 AD, Rome had around 26 emperors, and only one of them died of natural causes. This instability made it nearly impossible for the empire to maintain strong leadership. At the same time, corruption became rampant. Many Roman officials were more focused on enriching themselves than governing effectively. Bribery and extortion were common, and the government became increasingly inefficient. The Senate, once a powerful institution, lost much of its influence, and the empire became more reliant on the military to keep order. However, the military itself was also plagued by corruption, with generals often using their armies to gain political power rather than defend the empire. Rome's economy, which had once thrived on trade and conquest, also began to weaken. The empire relied heavily on slave labor, but as expansion slowed, fewer slaves were brought in. This led to a decline in production and trade, causing economic stagnation. Meanwhile, the government, desperate for revenue, imposed heavy taxes on the people. The tax burden became so unbearable that many small farmers abandoned their lands, leading to a decline in agricultural production and food shortages. To make matters worse, Rome suffered from inflation. The government began minting more coins with less silver in an attempt to pay off debts, but this led to severe inflation. Prices skyrocketed, and Roman currency lost its value. As a result, trade suffered, and many people resorted to bartering instead of using money. The empire was no longer the economic powerhouse it once was. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. For centuries, Rome had one of the most powerful armies in the world. But by the late empire, it had weakened significantly. One reason was that Rome relied more and more on mercenaries, foreign soldiers who were paid to fight, rather than recruiting its own citizens. These mercenaries, often Germanic tribesmen, had little loyalty to Rome and sometimes even turned against it. Meanwhile, Rome faced increasing pressure from barbarian invasions. The most famous of these was the Visigoths, a Germanic tribe led by Alaric, who sacked Rome in 410 AD. This was a massive shock to the Roman world. Rome had not been invaded in over 800 years. But the worst was yet to come. In 455 AD, another barbarian tribe, the Vandals, sacked the city again, causing even more devastation. Finally, in 476 AD, the last Roman emperor of the West, Romulus Augustulus, was overthrown by a Germanic chieftain named Odoacer, marking the official fall of the Western Roman Empire. However, it's important to note that the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, survived for another 1,000 years until it fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. Another major factor in Rome's fall was the decision to split the empire in the late 3rd century. Emperor Diocletian, recognizing how difficult it was to govern such a vast territory, divided the empire into East and West in 285 AD. The eastern half, with its capital in Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, was wealthier and better protected, while the western half, centered in Rome, was weaker and more vulnerable to attack. While the Eastern Roman Empire, or Byzantine Empire, thrived for centuries, the western half continued to decline. The division made it harder for the two halves to support each other in times of crisis, and eventually, the Western Empire collapsed under the weight of its problems. Many historians also point to the moral and cultural decline of Rome as a factor in its downfall. As Rome became wealthier, many of its citizens became more focused on luxury and entertainment rather than duty and discipline. The famous gladiator games, once a symbol of Roman strength, became more violent and excessive. At the same time, fewer people were willing to serve in the army, leading to a reliance on foreign mercenaries. Additionally, the traditional Roman values of duty, honor, and patriotism faded over time. Many citizens no longer felt a strong connection to the empire and were more interested in personal gain. This lack of unity made it easier for invaders to take advantage of Rome's weakness. The fall of Rome was not a single event, but rather a slow process that took centuries. Some historians argue that Rome had become too large and complex to govern effectively, making its collapse inevitable. Others believe that if Rome had made different decisions, such as strengthening its economy, reforming its government, or improving its military, it might have survived longer. However, while the Western Roman Empire fell, its legacy lived on. The Roman legal system, architecture, language, Latin, and even aspects of its government influenced medieval Europe and the modern world. Many modern cities, roads, and laws can trace their origins back to Rome. In that sense, Rome never truly fell, it simply transformed. The fall of the Roman Empire was one of the most significant events in world history. It was the result of political corruption, economic troubles, military decline, and external invasions. While Rome itself may have fallen, its legacy continues to shape our world today. The question is, could the same thing happen to modern superpowers? Are there lessons we can learn from Rome's decline to prevent history from repeating itself? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical content. See you next time.